Good evening. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and Mr. President, who seems to be getting everything tonight. I'd like to start. I want to ask a question to everybody. Is it just me, or do all school friends, close school friends, have strange beginnings? I want to ask this question, and I'll give you an example of 3 school friends I had while I was growing in different periods of my life. All born from very strange circumstances, and maybe it's just me, or maybe it's everyone, and that is the question I want to ask. So the first of these school friends, a boy called Paul Lawrence. I was in junior school, which I think is 8.5 years old. And it was a lovely summer's day. It was June. I remember this, it was in the summer, and we got to play outside. And my school was an old-fashioned school, and they had a bell to denote when lessons were over, when playtime was over, etc., etc. And at lunchtime it was nice weather, so we were all outside. And because you couldn't hear the bell inside, they actually had a physical hand bell, which a teacher would use to denote when it was time to go in. And if you stood next to this teacher and asked him nicely, he'd let you ring it. And so one day I was standing next to said teacher, and I said, "Can I ring it?" And he said, "Yes." And so I started ringing. Now, unbeknownst to me, I was actually standing in the middle of a football game. Didn't know this at the time. I started ringing with great gusto and smacked into the face of Paul Lawrence, who turned into my best friend at junior school. His nose exploded. But from that day until the end of junior school, which was 11, we were the best of friends, inseparable. His parents moved off, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen him since. But it was a very strange occurrence that first day. And then a second friend, a close friend of mine, at senior school. Now this is 11 years old. And in the senior school, it was September, I think it was within the first week. We were outside playing because it was nice weather. And I met a boy called Philip Shuring. And he was to become a very close friend of mine for the whole of the senior school. But that first day, he just moved into the area. I cannot remember why, but we ended up fighting. And this is the sort of fighting you see on the rugby pitch. So lots of pushing, shoving, but generally very little else. Commentators call it handbags. I'm not sure. This got broken up by the teachers, but from that day until the end of senior school, which was 16, we were the closest of friends. He left to get a job. He works in sales now. I left to go to college, and I see him every so often. But it was a very close friendship, started in a very, very strange way. And now the third friendship, I went to university, and again, this just seems to happen. There was this friend, the guy I met called Mike DeHalpert, and I am very close friends with him. I still see him now very regularly. But on the first day, during the first week of university, when I went to university, it was a great time. I got given a grant, I got given money, and the whole idea was to go to university and enjoy yourself. Completely not the way it happens now. But when I went, that was it. And this was the first week, I think they call it Freshers Week, and me and Mike were competing for the affections of a young lady. I don't know who she was, I can't remember. But this was the first time I've met him. Now there was a lot of ale consumed, and as last orders were called, because at that time there were last orders, and so I guess it was 11 o'clock, we all got thrown out of the pub, and outside of this pub was a big grass field. And me and Mike decided to settle this in the only way men can, and we wrestled on that field. It felt like hours, though it could have been seconds. I'd had a few, I'll be honest with you. We then decided that that was a stupid idea. We needed to get more alcohol, and we found somewhere else to drink. Since that time, I've been very close friends with him. I cannot remember who the lady was. She disappeared. But me and Mike are still friends, and still friends now. And it just goes to show that you are drawn together from the strangest of ways. All the people I meet nowadays, things like this doesn't happen. But it seemed to me at that time, I don't know whether it was just because it was close friends, or whether it was school, or whether it was just me. But there seems to be, the way friendships are formed come from very strange ways. So again, I'd just like to ask, is it me, or is it everybody else? I really don't know. Thank you.